What's up, dudes? It is I am the one and only Mighty the Armadillo here.
And I am Ray the Flying Squirrel, and we are back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of newer Super Mario Bros. DS,
a ROM hack of new Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo DS.
So, last time, we somehow managed able to fully complete the second world, which does manage to take place in Crystal Sewers, and oh no, we actually did that world pretty good, even though sometimes though about the fact that we occasionally made some mistakes here and there. To be more specifically though, is about the fact that we died a couple of times in some stages, which as a result, sometimes trial and error decides to kick in, but apart from that, we did that world pretty solidly. So, and don't even get me started in Journey Forms of on Worlds 2-A, just because I have to force able to actually turn into mini form, but regardless of such though, yeah, everything else is pretty much accounted for. So today, for this video, is that we are about to be heading over into World 3, which does manage to take place in Dorrie's Island. So this means about the fact that I believe for this particular world right there, it's going to be a combination of the forms of a tropical beach world and as well as that, a forest world at the same time. Similar to the forms of how it does it on New Super Mario Bros. 2, because in World 3 in that game also utilizes some of these stages that does manage to take place in tropical beach levels and in addition to some forest levels as well. So because of that, and speaking of such, I'm gonna go ahead and deal with my turn right there on the first stage in World 3. So overall though is about the fact that I would be surprised about the fact that I do need to get rid of that particular mini mushroom at some points, because let's face it though, the mini mushroom is pretty pointless until specifically later on, for the sake of the forms of some star coins anyway. But as far as you probably already know for the fact that ever since in the previous video is about the fact that thankfully though, trying to able to actually access to every single world is easy to manage, apart from one exception, which then again though, we'll discuss more about that probably at some point until the next weekend, because well, straight to the point, yeah. So anyways though, a few things we want to talk about this is though, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course there is the 2nd of August today, in some cases in 2025 today, and what you believe in is about the fact that we've only just got about 26 more days to go until Kirby and the Forgotten Land Nintendo Switch 2 edition plus Star-Crossed World is going to be on its way. So because of that though, specifically onto the Nintendo Switch 2. So this means about the fact that, well, we haven't got that long left now until we've decided able to actually go back on playing through Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but this time around though with the expansion story. So because of that though, I'm not entirely sure what the difficulties are going to be for that particular expansion, but we're really expecting to believe that particular expansion will be a little bit tougher in comparison to the forms of how it does it on I know for a fact it has been about 3 years ago actually since we've last experienced Kirby and the Forgotten Land, since about the fact that no matter what though, I'm not entirely sure about the fact that who did the commentary of the actual Let's Play of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, but I'm sure enough that we'll try to able to actually figure something this out and join at some point until tomorrow, but either way. So, another thing I would like to explain to you all for something, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well, kind of thing about it though is about the fact that for what I've noticed something right from the start, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, yeah, there was actually a new addition to that particular unfortunate cancellations with all these, like, you know, with the forms those cancellation types of those particular Nintendo Direct types, like, you know what I'm saying for the fact that there are certain Direct types such as Wii U Direct, and in addition to Nintendo Direct Micro, as well as the Nintendo 3DS Direct, and on top of that with Nindy's Showcase, and in addition to ND Highlights, but then, unexpectedly, there's yet another cancellation type has been addressed, and that's what appears to be by the forms of Nintendo E3 presentations / directs, because obviously though, it's been, you know, actually got a big thing about it, it's 4 years ago actually, since when we've last had E3, but that was on the final installment, and that's what appears to be in 2021, considering about the fact that we were expecting to be hoping that E3 will return,
But unfortunately, though, that's not the case, unfortunately. So,
yeah, it kind of sucks though, especially because considering about the fact I do remember the good old times about the fact that whenever we did manage to able to get hyped about something, during the evolves of around summertime, and as a result though is about the fact that, you know, think of like the Christmas edition when it comes to the video game announcements, but straight to the point, we now need to be able to try to get used to it, the evolves there's new types, such as the evolves of Twitter drops, and you get the idea for this point. So,
yeah, exactly. Especially considering about the fact that, well, I'm not entirely sure if it's possibility for the fact that no matter what though, for the fact that after all, we've only just got about 1 month left until for the fact that we can able to potentially try to able to actually celebrate the, you know, 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. So because of that, not long now until the actual celebration is about to start. When it comes to the evolves of the campaign, and I'm still very curious to know what the merchandise is going to be.
And not to mention though, Ray, is about the fact that there might be some, well, huge surprises here and there. So because of that, yeah, you can get the idea what I was expecting of what's to come, so...
But I digress. So for the time being though, whilst we wait for the sake of the evolves to try to celebrating the, you know, 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise still, not only for the fact that recently though, that Maxie is now onto the halfway point in terms of the Mario Party mode in Super Mario Party Jamboree, so as a matter of fact, that he's only got 3 boards left, which appears to be Western Land from Mario Party 2, and Mario's Rainbow Castle from the likes of it Mario Party 1, and by the way, you did die.
Yeah, I've noticed that already, because I sort of didn't pay attention to that particular... Koopa Paratrooper just almost gets in my way, so because of that, I wouldn't mind taking another death, so... Anyway, continue.
Oh yeah, because of that though, it's about the fact that, as I said earlier, that he got 3 boards left for Super Mario Party Jamboree before he moves on into some tons of extra content for Super Mario Party Jamboree. So as a result, those boards are not only Western Land from Mario Party 2, but in addition to Mario's Rainbow Castle from Mario Party 1, and of course King Bowser's Keep. And after that though, he can basically tackle through a bunch of modes basically, including Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive content here and there. So chances are though is about the fact that this might actually be the perfect opportunity for the fact that we can able to actually miraculously try to capture some game footage for our Nintendo Switch 2 system for the very first time in our lives, which is especially noticeable considering about the fact that, you know, that thankfully though, the Switch 2 does manage to still work on our HD TV as of now, because we were expecting to believe about the fact that we can able to try to get ourselves the 4K TV up to that point, but chances are though is about the fact that there's absolutely no need for it for the time being.
Although, because of that though, because as you probably already expect, that the Nintendo Switch 2 has already just begun, for the sake of the evolves of the life cycle, you know? And also, kind of think about it, you have to utilize the mini mushroom, just like me, from the likes of one of those mini mushroom focused levels. Although, except the fact that thankfully though, there's no auto-scrolling or anything else like that, so...
Plus, not to mention though, is about the fact that it does manage to take place in the beach theme environment, so... Yeah, kudos to you that you did somehow manage to tackle for that stage okay enough, despite you did die in one of those, you know, Koopa Paratroopers decides able to get in your way, but either way. So now it's my turn to do the next tower level, which suffice to say, it's called Hive Tree Tower, which means we have to climb through a lot of those, or potentially speaking, what I meant to say is that I'm gonna have to able to actually climb onto those little honey hives, which is pretty interesting all things considered.
However, unlike in something related to the forms of not only both Super Mario Galaxy as well as Super Mario Galaxy 2, that in order able to actually climb onto these little honey hives is that you need to use the bee form transformation in order able to actually hang on to the actual, well, some honey stuff. Whilst in here though, you can able to actually just to, you know, hang on to the actual honey combs or honey hive little things itself. In fact, kind of thinking about it though, this wasn't exactly the first time we actually experienced something like this, because that usually begins during that particular part, and that's what it appears to be for the sake of newer Super Mario Bros. Wii. So, because of that though, is about the fact that, fundamentally speaking though, is about the fact, I think that's as far as I can try to,
well, say about this, I guess. In fact, let me quickly check what's underneath here. In fact, I don't think there's any secrets inside in this pipe there, which I might as well check anyway, so... Okay, there's no secret, so unfortunately I take a death, but that's okay, because I've already activated the checkpoint from earlier, so no need for that. Oh yeah, talking of which though actually, for when I've managed able to test this out on my spare own time, basically though, if you dare managed able to go into the item shop while you manage to automatically activate the checkpoint from the level you currently stuck on. Unfortunately though, you will lose your progress if you do manage able to go into one of the toad houses in particular after realizing for the fact that, well, you did somehow activate the checkpoint flag, right? Well, yeah, exactly. Why? Because, well, honestly, it's about the fact that it's hard for me to explain, because we already know for a fact it's been about, I would say it's been 9 days since we've last played this game for sure, because, well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that, like you stated earlier, Ray, is that, well, you know, Maxi is almost pretty much done. In terms of the forms of Super Mario Party Jamboree Let's Play so far, in terms of the actual boards themselves. But, mind you though, Mighty, is about the fact that he's still got a whole ways to go before he decides to able to potentially, that we can able to actually decide to do our Let's Play of Luigi's Mansion 3 to able to try to conclude the entire trilogy when it comes to the Luigi's Mansion games until God knows until when Nintendo decides to able to make the next one for specifically for Nintendo Switch 2, but we shall wait and see. So either way, so let's just go ahead and keep on climbing, and I think for the most part I'm almost at the very end of this, so thus I see there was actually a star coin right up there, so good thing I managed able to pay attention to that little sprite animation there. And now it's time to take on Bowser Jr. with some of these pesky birds. But usually though, I ultimately decided to finish him off with the glorious Fire Flower, so how about that? Alright, so not doing too shabby so far. In terms of the Evolves of World 3, so alright, so now it's my turn to do World 3-3, so yeah, I'm very curious to know what that particular level is going to be like in World 3-3. Plus, with that particular tower level I've already accomplished, it does manage to take place in the actual tree, so as a result, yeah, I do like that particular touch for that, you know, model replacement for the sake of one of those tower stages, so... Alright, so it looks like I'm going into the forest level, because like you stated earlier, that World 3 in newer Super Mario Bros. DS is like a combination of both the beach theme world and the forest theme world at the same time. However, unlike the first world though, in this ROM hack, it does manage to take place in evolves within a different season time, to be more specifically in autumn, whilst in here though, it's actually a very standard spring vibes or something like that, so... But either way, it looks like we got able to hang on to those little honey hives again, so I can able to potentially try to able to, you know what I'm saying, try to do some very specific... Oh jeez, that was close, because I almost was thought I was gonna mess this up, but regardless of such, I'll activate the switch again. Oh jeez, that was close. But that doesn't stop there, there's a spring there, which means the second star coin as I somehow obtained, so how about that? But, yeah, I guess for the most part, though, we were originally decided able to actually try to explain to you all for something in terms of the forms of the updated, you know, highest grossing films at the moment in terms of 2025, so... But, I think suffice to say, though, is about the fact that we'll, try to explain more about that. Probably we'll let, Maxi will mention more about it if he goes back on playing through Super Mario Party Jamboree for the sake of the forms to tackle through the next board, which is, of course, as he said, Western Land from Mario Party 2, which, for a moment there, I keep on almost saying, I've almost saying to myself, Horror Land, but ultimately, though, Horror Land was only on not only in Mario Party 2, but in addition to Mario Party Superstars, because I keep on thinking for the fact that we can able to experience the best board in Mario Party 2 / Superstars, but ultimately though, like I stated earlier, that Maxi is going to be going into Western Land next, so
Because as far as what he did say this before, that he's probably gonna go through every single board in a chronological order, including with the forms of the unlockable requirements, you know? Yeah, especially considering for the fact that depending on what rank you get, that basically though, that the silver rank you can able to get is, of course, Western Land, and if you get yourselves the gold rank, I'm pretty sure you get Mario's Rainbow Castle, and meanwhile, in terms of the forms of the platinum rank, you're able to actually access to the final board, which is of course King Bowser's Keep, but I'm sure enough that was about the fact that Maxi has already mentioned about that since during the forms of in Rainbow Galleria board, so... Alright, your turn now, Ray, to do the House of Blocks. Yep, the first ghost house level in this ROM hack, so... And in fact, kind of thinking about it though, I'm pretty sure the background music we're going to be hearing is actually based off from the castle theme music from Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2, which I'm presuming that's what that is, so... But thankfully though, since I did somehow manage to able to already equip the hammer suit, which means that I'm basically unstoppable in terms of the forms of trying to deal with the forms of those boo enemies, so that way I can able to take him down, so... Yeah, and I suppose no matter what though is about the fact that apparently though that our Let's Play of Super Mario Party Jamboree is actually doing super duper well again, which truth be told though, because you know, a lot of fans out there for the channel, that they really do enjoy the Mario Party Let's Plays throughout the years, especially considering about the fact that, well, unlike something related to the forms of back in, well, 2011 all the way up to 2012 back then, despite the fact that those videos are no longer there, that they are very, very poor, especially with all that bad quality in mind, but even then. Also, I just realized I stumbled across into the Boo Balloon early on, because he was originally gonna be in the forms of in World 4 in the regular Super Mario Bros. DS game, right? That's probably true, especially because of all that little strange platform you're able to go from one end to the other kind of thing. Yeah, I always thought about that actually, so oh jeez, we have to pay attention to the forms of where the hand cursors are whenever they try to point onto something, which means I get the feeling it's going to be an invisible block, so... But anywho though, also straight to the point, speaking of which, in terms of the forms of something related to the forms of some rumors and leaks again, well, usually what I've noticed is about the fact that ever since around a couple of days back, that me and Mighty have stumbled across into the forms of this unexpected leak, which appears to be something related to the Mario's 40th anniversary, specifically the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise, which we keep on asking for, and as a result, it did somehow got accidentally leaked, and I did manage to find out, and including somebody else as well, they did point out about the fact that the entire post itself is actually fake, because there are 3 reasons for that. For one thing, there's an error message, and I believe second of all is about the fact that they somehow managed able to use the actual, the familiar stock images, which appears to be almost like a ribbon bow kind of syndrome, which ultimately though is about the fact that they did somehow manage able to utilize the stock images for the sake of that particular, well, the ribbon thing to it. So, and on top of that, they somehow managed able to actually just, well, I don't know about you, I don't know what's exactly what the third solution was all about exactly, but I already know for about 2 things in particular about the phones that post was actually fake, because, well, I'm sure enough though, it will still happen, for the sake of the forms of how Nintendo is going to be able to try to eventually try to celebrate the, you know, the 40th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. Franchise until specifically in September, because let's face it though, it continues that tradition ever since back in, I would say since in September in 2010, if I do remember. At least that's what Sonic did tell me about this, and I'm sure enough that was about the fact that they indeed managed able to celebrate something on that particular month, on September, because you know, that is when the Japanese release of the original Super Mario Bros. Was first released, so I guess that makes a little bit more sense, to able to actually wait for a little while, so I mean,
I'm sure enough though is about the fact that we are about to be preparing something on a special occasion as well, but you'll have to wait and find out, and join at some point until when the time comes, especially after that particular teaser that we've been posted since in 2024, which is pretty insane, because we already know for a fact that after that particular heartbreaking moment for our lives, even especially noticeable for the sake of the forms of our, you know, lovable dog, so, yeah, that's just, you know, you get the idea what I was expecting on one of those, posts on that particular community, tab, so,
yeah, I digress. So, and also as far as I'm aware, speaking of something a bit more sad though, that I've noticed about the fact that one of those songs in particular, which appears to be called, Crazy Train, from the likes of the forms of sung by, Ozzy Osbourne, apparently though, I did manage to find out there was actually 3, different types of DreamWorks movies. They just somehow managed to love that song so much, for the sake of the forms of Crazy Train by the late, Ozzy Osbourne, which appears to be, not only they somehow used it for the likes of in, Megamind, but in addition to, Trolls World Tour, and even Kung Fu Panda 4, so no matter what though, it's about the fact that, well, there's only like 3 DreamWorks movies, they somehow managed to able to keep on, using that particular popular song for the likes of Ozzy Osbourne, you know? Yeah, I suppose that makes it pretty obvious for the sake of the forms of how important that can be, as far as I'm aware of, either way. I mean, truth be told though, it has been quite a while since we actually last mentioned something related to, DreamWorks standpoints, because, well, generally speaking, that was about the fact that we are still expecting to be waiting for, the next film to arrive on the big screen, and that's, of course, Zootopia 2, or Zootropolis 2, because I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure I'm also able to skip, certain films for that matter, at least as far as I'm aware of, but even then, we shall, think about it in case if we might be invested on something, so, but I digress. So, all in all, I actually did that level quite good, even though for the fact that no matter what though, trying to rush through, some segments are a little bit trippy for me, but regardless of such though, everything else will become to expect, so, and now let's go ahead and deal with some secret stages. So let's go into Wall 3-A, so it's your turn now, Mighty, to do the underwater level with the most deadliest enemy out of the bunch, and that's of course Cheap Chomp, which, yeah, if you get swallowed by him, you die instantly, so just be very cautious, mind you. I'm pretty sure I know exactly what I'm doing, especially after all, that we've already experienced Super Mario Bros. 3 for about 3 times, so as a result, I know exactly what to do with this little, Cheap Chomp, little, enemy I can able to face off against, so as long as I would able to actually keep my, hammer suit with me, so just in case I can able to decimate, every single underwater enemies, like Cheap Cheeps, or even, Cheap Chomps especially, so, yeah, I usually can just try to settle in with like this, so, yeah, we have to admit to it right away for this point, folks. We do apologize if our commentary feels a bit, kind of odd at times, but as it's clearly because no matter what though, there's nothing else we can really speak about, in terms of the forms of what's going on, and in addition to that though, Ray, is about the fact that after all, that like you said, we've only just got about 1 month left until we can able to finally get a chance to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Red Italian Plumber, which, truth be told, I'm sure enough those that any other Nintendo fans, ourselves included, are going to be super duper hyped about what's going to be actually going to be happening for that particular special day, so... In fact, I'm not entirely sure when does the actual presentation is going to take place, but we do know it's going to be on September, but I don't know exactly what day it is though, because, well, straight to the point, is that back in 2020, in some cases the worst year we've ever experienced, for I keep on noticing that, because, well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that at the very least we got ourselves a full-on dedicated direct for the sake of the forms of the Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary, which does manage to bring a lot of Mario content, such as, while looking back, that we actually got ourselves the Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Edition, which we still have, and on top of that, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, which we also do have, and oh no, we actually had a great time with that particular version of the game, mind you. And on top of that, there's also
Super Mario Bros. 35, which we used to have that game, but unfortunately though we no longer have it because, you know, that game is no longer playable, and so much to the point, the game has already been delisted, and straight to the point, that game was not a part of the Forms of the Virtual Game Card system, which this means that you can't share the game onto any other Nintendo Switch system, so this means you are essentially— Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa! Good lord, man! Yeah, you're almost gonna die right there, but thankfully though, you've managed able to actually pay attention to his little unexpected appearance, so wowee.
Yeah, wowee indeed. Wowie zowie more like.
Yeah, I know, right?
Alright, so at the very least I did manage to complete that level just fine.
And now it's my turn to do World 3-B, and conveniently enough, I'm actually going to be able to take a ride with Dorrie right here. Similar to the forms of how it does in one of those levels in the original New Super Mario Bros. On DS. So here we go, on to Dorrie Den, which is filled to the brim with a lot of Dorries we need to ride on, so I think that's the whole entire purpose of the entire stage is going to play out. But, yeah. Anyway, back into what I was saying about the forms of while looking back on, you know, with the forms of Mario's 35th anniversary, so as a result, I honestly still remembered about the forms of this very unexpected peripheral, which appears to be called Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which I know for a fact that nowadays, that a lot of players don't usually play that game anymore, plus it's mainly because of multiple factors. For one, the actual game itself is going to be only suitable for, not only for the lack of the forms of carpets, but also you need to be, access to forms of hard floors, and not only that though, that there's no online play, and aside from all that stuff though, there aren't any, new, official updates since, I would say since a couple of years back, where they did manage to able to bring the rally race, where you can able to actually play as not only Princess Peach, but also Yoshi and Toad, because, well, generally speaking, I was about the fact that obviously that both Mario and Luigi are the only ones they did manage to able to get themselves the actual RC vehicle toy into it, so.
And also, while looking back on it though, it feels rather odd for the fact that Bowser was not participating in the actual race, or heck, even with the forms of there's no Donkey Kong, or Wario for that matter, which, you know, because of all that particular limitations on certain aspects, so this means about the fact that, well, yeah, it's kind of weird for the fact that several of those racers has not been anticipated for the actual, you know, the majority of the forms of Mario Kart Live Home Circuit. So, and after that though, while looking back on it though, they bring us the forms of a bunch of collaborations, such as, let's just say Splatoon 2 event, and in addition to Mario Kart Tour content, and also a bunch of merchandise, and after that, with the forms of Super Mario All-Stars on the Nintendo Switch Online, and of course, the greatest highlight for us though, and that's of course the existence of, you know, Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which not only contains, you know, Super Mario 64, but in addition to Super Mario Sunshine and Super Mario Galaxy, but usually, because you did tell me for the fact that it is such a disappointment for the fact that it does not contain Super Mario Galaxy 2 on that compilation, although I would expect to believe they might able to actually give Super Mario Galaxy 2 one last chance on the Switch life cycle. Like, who knows, maybe it'll be on Switch 2 exclusive or something, but time will definitely tell though, especially because, well, at that point in time, that we are still, miraculously, we are still playing through a bunch of Mario games at the time for the sake of the phones the whole entire year so far in 2025, which is good, considering for the fact that we can still able to actually support, you know, the Red Italian Plumber of all characters and all that stuff, so, yeah, that's as far as I was expecting for that point, so.
And also I just realized the background music is actually based off from the majority of the Forest music theme from not only from New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but in addition to New Super Mario Bros. 2 and the forms of Soda Jungle in New Super Mario Bros. U, so
including New Super Luigi U as well, in case if you want to count that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Alright, so now it's my turn to do World 3-C, but before I do that, I need to open up the next
one-up house right there, despite the fact I think we should probably be okay as it is. Yeah, because let's face it though, I don't think it's possible we can able to actually get a game over for the time being. So for now on though, oh, you're gonna do another underwater level. Oh, jeez. Well, at least we're really hoping that this level won't be nearly as bad as World 3-A, so to speak, but I would have spoke too soon on that part. But best of luck, I suppose, though, Mighty, because, well, you're gonna need it, so...
Yeah, thanks that, bro.
Yeah, no problem.
I just realized I do need that little spider bomb enemy in order to able to actually blow up that little block, as far as I've noticed.
But, you know, there are some more dragon coins along the way, which I can't really tell for sure, because again, it's been about 9 days ago since we've last played this, like I said before, but anyway.
Alright, it's gonna have to not squish him, or just try not to jump onto him. Jump over him, and there he goes.
Yep, so that way you can get yourselves your first star coin in this stage.
But for the most part though, like you said before, I have to go for another underwater level, so...
Well, as long as you were able to actually keep your fire flower with you, you should be okay. But it's just about the fact that you have to be very cautious with all that. Not only green cheap jeeps, where if you manage to able to get spotted by them, they will miraculously home in on you. And on top of that, when it comes to those bombs that these little spider enemies are about to drop them, so yeah, there's a lot to avoid going on, so...
Yeah, that's probably true, so... Oh, really? Okay, let me just bring out my fire flower out in case I don't want to die, unless if I have to grab that first star coin again. But, at the very least, I can able to get rid of those bombs very easily with the glorious fire flower balls, so... Yeah, good thinking there, especially because, well, despite the fact that you somehow made your way to the next point of the stage, so... Alright, what's in here? Let's bring ourselves the, another fire flower, which I always appreciate it, so, in fact, I'm curious to know how I'm supposed... Oh, wait. Wait. I do know exactly what it does mean by that. Aha! The water level rising system.
Yep, and that's how you get yourselves the second star coin, and now you need to activate it again to proceed into the continuation of the level.
So as far as I'm aware, though, it's about the fact that once we make our way to, presumably speaking, into World 6, all the way up to World 8, that those specific worlds will go a lot more lengthier, so...
Yeah, I would say for the fact that once we get to the forms within the 7th world, then we should able to actually go into 2 parts in particular, and same applies with the forms of the 8th and final world, if possible, because, well, chances are, though, is about the fact that those worlds in particular, the final 2 worlds, is going to be quite lengthy, so...
Yeah, we'll have to think about that though, right? Because, after all, this is only just the beginning of August, after all, because at that point in time, that we are definitely almost getting to the point for the fact that we are not only going to go towards the very end of summer, sadly, but as well as that, though, we are almost at the beginning of autumn, and in addition to that, almost getting very close towards the end of the months of 2025 as a year itself, so...
But still, no matter what, though, is about the fact that we are still doing pretty well in terms of the forms of our uploading schedules up to that point, because, you know, like I said before, the uploading schedule in the beginning of the beginning portion rather of 2025 just goes a bit all over the place, you know. But let's not get of ourselves at this point because, well, I somehow complete this stage. Yep, within no issues whatsoever. So apart from getting hit a couple of times, so.
Oh no, not too shabby.
Alright, so I guess it's now my turn to finish off the world within the castle level. So, but before I do that, I need to get myself a nifty item in the item shop. So, hopefully though, that the castle level won't give me that much trouble either.
So, either way, I suppose there's technically the final thing I want to mention about. Yes, we did somehow manage to able to unlock every single statues for the likes of the forms of the Donkey Kong Bonanza event in Super Mario Run.
I will say though, some missions are for the most part pretty easy, but some of them are actually very difficult, mainly with the forms of trying to win in Toad Rally likely 3 times in a row consecutively, because if you mess up once, and if you lose one round with that particular consecutive wins in a row system, this means you have to restart the entire scenario all over again, which is not going to be that great. But apart from those side things though, when you get the hang of it though, it's actually pretty satisfying to able to actually get some even more stuff for the sake of the forms of trying to decorating the entire Mushroom Kingdom itself in Super Mario Run. I know for a fact that I don't really know if we might able to take a break on playing through Super Mario Run again for a while, because, well, chances are though is about the fact that, again, this is only just the beginning. It turns the forms of something Nintendo Switch 2 events focus for the sake of the forms of some Mario games in particular, because we already know that we've already experienced Mario Kart World events for Mario Kart Tour, and ultimately though we have decided not to touch upon Mario Kart Tour ever again for a little while, unless if we're able to actually go after some more rupees and stuff like that, to try to able to actually obtain some more you know, Mii Racing suits in particular, which, yeah, it's nothing groundbreaking, especially because of all that. Well, let's just say it's probably not going to be possible for us to able to get ourselves the gold Mii Racing suits because of that. You know what I'm saying, for the fact that with the tier system, it needs to be required in order to able to actually access that within level 80, and I was like, Christ almighty, no! But I digress. So much for using Luigi because he slits. And relatively speaking, I'll have to carefully try to able to just not to fall to the bottomless pit and grab the star coin immediately before we naturally fall behind. But luckily I somehow made it in the nick of time. Oh, are you kidding me? There's another auto-scrolling section. Oh, jeez. Oh, no. Oh, no! Oh, dang it, I screwed myself up. I'm pretty sure this is the last section of the level, I'm pretty sure. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. But at the very least, I've already got the checkpoint earlier, so oh well. I guess I'll have to try again, I suppose. And I'm hoping that I won't mess things up, so... And kind of thing about it though, right, is about the fact that I'm pretty sure we've almost getting closer towards the halfway point of this as well. Oh yeah, because straight to the point though is about the fact that, you know, as we expected, that Maxi will definitely go back on playing through Super Mario Party Jamboree for the weekdays, whilst usually for our newer Super Mario Bros. DS Let's Play, it's now going to be taking place throughout the majority of the weekends, or weekends I should say. I do apologize for that particular weird commentary error sometimes, because, to be honest here, there's nothing else we can really speak about in terms of anything else actually, because, straight to the point, for the fact that Maxi has already explained about the forms of the majority of the stuff at that point, so, plus not only that though, right, it's about the fact that, like I said earlier, this is only just the beginning of the new month for 2025, which is of course August, which means that this will potentially be the last month in terms of summer season, I'm pretty sure. Well, if you haven't thought to yourself about that, well, we still have to go for the forms of some warm temperatures in some occasional September days at some form or another. Oh yeah, that might be the actual specific reason for that. So, anyway, good luck on your the boss fight that you're gonna have to face up against. Well, I'm sure we know exactly who that is though. Something to do with the forms that little cheap monster thingy, which I can't really tell what his name is though, by the way, because it's been a very long time since I actually have last played the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS, but I'm sure enough though is about the fact that if you try to perform a ground pound, it'll do twice the amount of damage, and as a result, I can just simply try to jump on its head, and that'll be about it for this entire fight. So, come on, jump up, thank you. And there we go, we somehow completed Wall 3. Yep, in Dorrie's Island, so, oh no, not too shabby. And now we're gonna get into, instead of going to World 5, unlike the defaults of how it does it on the vanilla New Super Mario Bros. On DS, so instead, we are now going into World 4. And World 4 looks a bit different around here. Like, for instance, it's now going to take place on a different environment, so Well, I'm sure enough though, it does have its name by the way, and this particular world is going to be called Pumpkin Boneyard. Okay, that's interesting.
And conveniently enough though, we've almost at the halfway point in terms of the star coins as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. So yeah, I suppose we should probably end things up at this point right here. So join us next time for more Let's Play of newer Super Mario Bros. DS. Is that we're going into World 4 called Pumpkin Boneyard. So this will be fun.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see you guys until tomorrow.
Later, fellas.